Good morning, Bill Atkins, Area Director of Area 61, and welcome to my club presidents. I wanted to just talk today about membership. Right now, it's the beginning of our Toastmasters year, and one thing that's always important at Toastmasters is getting new members. It's great to have experienced members in our club, but having new members is always a big plus for our clubs to become stronger. As we speak right now, we have the Smedley Award contest going on from August 1st through September 30th. If you have 5 new members join your club, you'll get the Smedley Award. Smedley Award will give you a little bit of a bonus. You'll get 5 Toastmaster bucks for every new member that joins, as long as you hit that minimum of 5. So you get 5 new members, 25 Toastmasters bucks. But that doesn't stop there. If you get more than 5, you get $5 more for any new member that joins and pays their dues between August 1st and September 30th. So we're already actively going at that. I know some of the clubs are doing a really good job. And as you know, my big push for this year is to hit the President's Distinguished Club status. And one of the things is to have 4 new members. So if you get the Smedley Award of 5, 4 of them are already done, and you have 1 point toward your Distinguished Club Award. But we have to do something to make that happen. It just doesn't happen. We've been talking about goals a lot. A lot of the clubs I'm visiting, a theme seems to be goals. Maybe it's the Olympics and people having goals of winning medals, representing their countries, or all that goes in the planning and preparation before you get to the goal. And that's what Toastmasters does too. Also, in the CL manual, one of the ideas is befriend a guest. So see who in your club would be good at that, and maybe ahead of time assign somebody to befriend a guest. It could be one of your most outgoing Toastmasters, but not necessarily. Have that person's role when they see a new guest come into your club before the meeting starts. Introduce them, warmly welcome them into their club, make them feel comfortable, introduce them to the president, the officers, and other members. Of course, we should always be using a guest sign-in book so that we can get the information of the customers, of the new guest's name and their email contact information so we could follow up after the meeting. Another great idea I've seen clubs use successfully is having these name stickers where it's blank, and the person that's coming in, the one who's befriending the new guest, would say, "Oh, let me have you fill out your name on here." They put it on their chest, and now other members, when they see that, they see, "Oh wow, it's a guest," right? Because they have a sticker on it, and they know their name. So instead of going, "Oh, who are you?" you can walk up, "Oh, hi, Charlotte." Again, using names really matters for people to be welcome in your club, and isn't that what it's all about? Another idea that I've seen some clubs use is have a 1-sheet intro sheet to give to your guest when they come in. And I took this from Bay Ridge Toastmasters, but you could do the same thing yourself. It's what's going on here, and it gives a few of the things that go on at the club. Now you could incorporate this if you like, you could do whatever you want, but just to get the guest to feel a little bit welcome, you could also put any information that you have on future meetings, when you meet, where you meet, and hand this to the new guests so that they have something while the meeting's going on. Before the meeting starts, the president should always ask the guests to stand and give a short introduction. I would say ask them to give an introduction about 30 seconds because you don't want somebody giving a 2-second or a 2-minute or a 5-minute introduction. And maybe just ask, how did you find out about Toastmasters? Now you have a new guest come in your club. They've already stood up in front of the club. Everybody claps and they feel welcome. When it comes time for table topics, a good idea I've seen at clubs too is you should always have experienced members talking first, and you should also try to pick members that don't have a speaking role. Maybe somebody isn't doing a prepared speech and they haven't signed up for one of the roles. You want to try to get as many people as you can talking, but after the experienced member is speaking, you get a few of them, then that's a great time to ask the guest to come on up to the front of the room and get them feeling welcome and part of the meeting. Again, so the guest comes in, he or she introduces themselves, they've now had an active part, but do make sure that you tell them how long to speak, because I've seen 2-second table topics and I've seen 20-minute table topics, and the idea is to let the person know so that they feel comfortable and welcome what the expectations are. At the end of the meeting, the president at the end of the meeting should ask the guest if you could please stand up, and now we know them by name, so you'd say, "Oh, Charlotte, could you please stand up and tell us what you liked best about tonight's meeting?" This again is giving the guest another opportunity to stand up in front of the club. And when you say, what did you like best, it sort of forces a person to come up with something good and to think on their feet, which is another way to make the guest feel warm and welcome. After the guest does join, an idea would be to have a new member club induction into your club. And one of the ways that you might do that is pick the first meeting of every month that any new members who have joined since the previous month will be brought up to the front of the room, and your VP of membership should really be doing that role, and we'll have the induction, maybe reading the Toastmasters Promise, but making the rest of the club know that Charlotte or whoever the new guest who's now become a member has joined, because I've also seen that sometimes guests reoccurrently come to meetings and we really don't know who has and hasn't joined, and that's a great way for a new guest who's become a member to feel welcome. So these are just a few of the ideas that I've seen as I've visited different clubs. I'm sure there'll be other ideas, and you may even have some ideas too, and I'd like to ask you to share them with me, billatkins@icloud.com, and along the way have different goals. Right now I think the goal really should be new members, new members, and new members, because that's a great way to start your club. It's a great way to get some distinguished club points toward your award, get some CL credit. It's a lot of good things, but it all starts with you, and as the president of your club, it's really up to you to set your club in the direction. New members, new members, new members. This is Bill Atkins. Have a great day.
Please keep your hands up if you can see the future. My hands are down. I can't see the future. None of us really can. And so you don't know what opportunities, situations, people, scenarios might present themselves as you go through your career and through your life. So it's hard to know which skills you might need to have in your quiver, right, in order to pull out and meet the opportunities that you have ahead. I think that as we go forward in our increasingly technologically driven age, certain skills will be highly beneficial, increasingly rare, and sought out. In my opinion, one of those is the ability to stand in front of an audience, connect to strangers, and get a point across quickly, verbally. It's a sentence I worry about saying because I'm doing the thing that I just said, right? Now, my objective today is to help give you some ideas or suggestions for developing habits and mindsets of effective public speaking. And by the way, in our introductions, I really noticed that some people already have the seed of these strong skills. So if you're a goal-oriented person, no matter what your comfort level is, we all have room for growth. And no matter where you're at with these skills, I hope that you can go away with some good notes and quotes today. And if you are one of these people who loves jumping up and grabbing a microphone and being in front of others, then I hope you'll give me some suggestions on how I can do a little better with a presentation like this in the future. Language is something that is very interesting to me. Language is a key thing that sets us apart from other species in the animal kingdom. Sometimes people are referred to as the highest form of creation. Recently I heard somebody say, maybe God created people because he wanted a friend to talk to about all the wonderful things that he had made. I thought that was interesting. Language is a very interesting gift. It's actually poetic in its very nature. This word stands for this thing, and it also stands for the sound table. The letter T stands for the sound T. In poetry, one thing stands for another. So our brain actually works in a poetic way. The fact that there are three different forms for the same concept: the sound, the word, the thing. In the Bible, man's first job, the Bible, a popular source of ancient wisdom, right? People's first job is to name things. It's very interesting to me that this is our first task. Right? Use your sounds to name the stuff. So if you know the story Adam and Eve, Adam gets on the scene first. Right? By the time that Eve shows up, Adam starts showing her around and giving her a tour. He says, "See, Eve, that's a bird, and I call that thing over there a tree." Then Adam steps on something. He says, "Ouch, ouch." Eve goes, "What was that?" Adam goes, "That's an ouch." Eve says, "I don't like that name." So Adam picks it up, hands it to her, says, "Fine, you name that one." Eve says, "I think we'll call this a rock." And that's the story of how a man began giving women rocks. Science tells us that people have been around for more than 100,000 years. But it's only in the last 5,000 that we've gone from prehistoric Stone Age to the iPhone. How did that happen? If you've ever been on, I wonder if anybody in the room has ever been on the ride Spaceship Earth in Epcot at Disney World. Spaceship Earth takes you through scenes in Western civilization. And what you realize is that the major moments in human history have been moments when communication took a jump forward in some way or other. A fellow Toastmaster, actually, at the night that we met Jim, illustrated that for me, the girl who spoke about her communication background. She mentioned how the scenes in that ride. I thought that was very interesting. I love that ride. 5,000 years ago in the river valleys of the Eastern Hemisphere, people began writing things down. Written language was born. Ever since, we've had a way to store information and we've progressed. The Greeks and the Hebrews and the Phoenicians passed down an alphabet where symbols stood not for words, but for sounds. Paper replaced stone tablets. Electronic tablets replaced paper. But in between and along the way, Johann Gutenberg invented the printing press, Alexander Graham Bell gave us telephones, TV came, dial-up internet, Facebook, social media, and YouTube, and the rest is history. My point is, mastering the art of written or spoken language puts you in touch with one of the signal aspects of our humanity and can help to mark you as a leader in any field of endeavor. So today I hope to give you some suggestions, some ideas for taking yourself to a higher level. And that's what I'll speak about for the remainder of my talk. The first thing I recommend, and in any opportunity that you're called to get in front of people, and this happens to us all the time, whether it's in our personal lives or in our work, sometimes somebody needs to speak, right? If you have an opportunity to do so, the first thing I recommend is connecting to your audience right away, making a personal connection somehow. One of the best things you can do is just gradually work on people skills. The basics. When you shake somebody's hand, say pleased to meet you and mean it, and remember their name. If you remember details of people's lives, you can help to incorporate it into your talk as you go. And that will increase people's attentiveness and buy into what you're talking about. In a similar way, one very helpful thing is to use questions. Highly effective teachers and speakers often open with a question. And this gets listeners involved right away. If you say something that makes them think about their lives, or participate, you have people raise their hands. To illustrate that, imagine if I was a history teacher, which is what I do, if I get up in front of my class, right, in the morning, and I say, okay, today we're going to be learning about the ancient Persians, blah, blah, blah. The kids will be snoring. But when I do that topic, what I start the day with is I get up and I ask a question. I say, please raise your hands if you like getting money. Everybody's hand immediately shoots up, right? And I might even take out like a $50 or $100 bill and have it, because then the kids will think maybe somebody's getting that, which they're not. My teacher don't have that many of those bills right now. But I say that, who likes getting money? Everybody, boom, they're 11 years old, they know, right? And then I dump a wad of $1 bills and a jar of coins on my desk and I say, the place that the first money was invented in coin form was ancient Persia, right? Now they're in the topic and they're with me, right? But it's about something that's more interesting and has to do with them than just the topic. And I can start going wherever I feel like from there. The point is the question. So people skills and questioning, these are ways to get people engaged with you. Use them in many different scenarios, whether you're giving a 3-minute talk or a 3-day seminar. Then there are these three important patterns that I've noticed that salespeople, teachers, and leaders use to help get a concept across in a quick, meaningful way, especially to people who are new to their ideas. The first technique that I've noticed is stories. Stories give a structure for people. They help people who are strange or new to a topic to latch on to concepts quickly, and they give them an anchor. Stories can be anecdotes from your life. They could be lessons from movies and books or tall tales. They could be things you make up even. But they give people some basis for what you're trying to teach. So recently, I had to give a speech about the qualities of effective salespeople. Not my expert topic, but this was my assignment. In the speech, honesty is one of the qualities of effective salespeople. And to illustrate honesty, I reminded my audience of the miracle in 34th Street, the story of Santa Claus in that movie. He asks kids, what do you want for Christmas? And if he knows the store he works at doesn't have the item, he tells the parents where they can go to get it. His honesty winds up bringing in more business for the store that he's at. Using stories, right? Allusions. Can you think of a speaker that you've seen who's really good at using stories? Priests and ministers tend to be the experts, but some politicians are also really good at using a story to connect and develop a relationship with their listeners. The second way that we learn, that I really like, is metaphors. A metaphor is a poetic device where you compare two things that seem dissimilar on the surface. Simile is a metaphor using like or as. But consider this. Most of the speeches or presentations that you might see, no matter what circumstance you're in, they tend to be loaded with a lot of statistical information and numbers. Statistics can be really helpful and necessary, but they tend to be dry and sometimes can be inaccurate. In fact, did you know 70% of statistics reported in speeches are made up on the spot, including this one. I encourage you to use metaphors to illustrate points for people in any situation you might have to speak. And this is actually an extension of something we do naturally in conversation. Metaphor is almost how we speak about everything. In the same way I said language is poetic, it's a very similar idea. It's difficult to have a conversation without making a metaphor. We do it all the time. Whenever we say something like, this show is as boring as watching paint dry, or my day was a marathon, or this meal is heaven. We do this naturally. It's vivid language that expresses our point. I'm telling you to get strategic about thinking about it when you stand in front of people. Remember that this is a tool you can go to. Actually, all the poetic devices we all learned once upon a time in school are great tools. Whether it's alliteration, hyperbole, extreme exaggeration, right? Personification. If you have a chance to speak to people, whether it's kids or adults, if you can go to use those tools in your speaking, right, you're going to help illustrate your points in a more vivid and expressive way. Poetic language tools, they help to make your talk musical and vivid for people. I saw my friend Jim give a speech the other day. He memorized this huge rhyme. I'm telling you, we were locked in. The audience was locked in because it was like 5 minutes and he had a rhyme scheme through the entire thing. It's awesome. Jim, you just said to me a minute ago, you're like, I love that poetry. It helps people. The third tool for teaching that I really like to use, or that I think about, is humor. Humor is something that comes more naturally to some people than others, but it is a muscle and a skill that you can develop. Some of the best public speakers in the world are the comedians. They're fearless. I would never suggest that somebody make a career change to being a comedian, honestly speaking. But it's good to look at these people if you're interested in developing an important skill of effective speaking. Most people have favorite comedians. I bet that most people in the room have some. If you think about them, what is it about these individuals that makes it work, that makes their delivery and their timing effective? Highly effective under serious circumstances. Two presidents I think of who were able to use humor effectively would be Abraham Lincoln and Ronald Reagan. Reagan frequently opened his speeches with a joke or a funny story, and it could flip the vibration in a room or in an international convention. Lincoln knew how to use a clever remark to turn the tide of a political debate and turn a tense moment where he looked bad into a winning one that made him seem clever, and he even could teach a lesson while doing it. You look at his speeches, he's a funny guy. Some people, some speakers, they're very good at using self-deprecating humor. Others, their style is that they've mastered the art of the punchline. A humorous tactic that you can practice in conversation is the rule of three. There's something weird about the number three in speaking. Writers and speakers, they're trained to find three strong points to support an argument. Put them in a certain order. A similar thing happens in jokes, and if you listen for comedians, you can actually see this in action. A great example is the popular knock-knock joke known to most kids that goes like this, right? Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Banana.
Banana.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Banana.
Banana.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Orange.
Orange.
Aren't you glad I didn't say banana? It's the third one, it has to be. And this is a pattern that you can use in conversation. It's one of these things that you can practice before you get, that you can be aware of and practice before you get an opportunity necessarily to be on a stage. I've benefited enormously from the practice that I've gained through Toastmasters. It feels as though half the people in the room are involved in it already, and it's nice to see my friends here. Toastmasters is an international organization for communication and leadership skills. It's founded in the 1920s in California. It gives people the opportunity to practice the fundamentals of public speaking. So what I want to give you is a short list of some of the most important fundamentals that these are things also that can be worked on in your normal day-to-day, one-on-one interactions with people, and any opportunity to get in front of people. The first fundamental, I would say, is voice. If you're speaking to others, you really should think about your voice in terms of, in the way that singers and radio personalities do. I think of people like Frank Sinatra or Martin Luther King Jr. They had this musical tone to their speaking voices, which helps to connect to people. Aside from that, yeah, it's a pleasing, a soothing thing usually. But if I think of Martin Luther King's cadence, it's original, it flows well when you see him giving that great speech. The other thing is, think about projection. And this changes depending on the room you're in. But teachers tend to be the experts at this because talking over kids and sometimes like an airbag unit or something. But if you think of stage actors, they're always speaking to the person in the back of the room. Right? So vocal tone and projection, it matters. It connects in a certain way with people. So thinking about our voices. The second fundamental that I would say to think about is movement. Your body says something about the message that you're trying to convey. People who teach things like confidence in this, one of the first lessons is change your posture. If you slouch over naturally, you want to get up straight and make your body bigger. Gestures are the punctuation marks on the points that you make. Think of the tyrants of past centuries slamming their fists as they spoke. Meanwhile, if you think of every image of Jesus, he's open. Think of the Buddha, right? Statue of Buddha. His body language is always the embodiment of peace. So our movements punctuate the things that we say. Your words communicate one thing. Your expressiveness communicates another. So your face is part of your body language. There are so many tons of muscles in your face, and the way that you manipulate and move it as you speak, it's going to have to do with the way that you get your message across. The third fundamental that we work on at Toastmasters is language. So voice, body, language. In language, right? Working on on the flow of your sentences. Where you put emphasis on a sentence and the words can have a big effect on the message that comes across. We also work on the elimination of filler words. What are filler words? Bingo, bingo, yep. The most famous is like, but and are more common to hear probably. The one I hear a lot of people employing, especially if I listen to radio interviews with some of my favorite athletes like the Mets and people after games, is you know. I keep hearing you know from people. It comes out very naturally. I don't know why that is. Maybe you know, I don't know. You can practice getting rid of these filler words in your normal day-to-day conversations. Once you start to learn about that tactic, you almost start counting them in your head. You're like, it's too many ahs just now. There was at least 3 ums in that sentence. You can practice eliminating these, and as you practice, it's also a good idea to try to drop slang and words that would make your grandma blush in situations where you're giving speeches in front of people. Private conversations, that's something that, everybody's got their own feel for that. But we all have different sensibilities, and we don't know what offends others. So whenever giving a talk to strangers or a group of people, it's a good idea to follow the rule of thumb of better safe than sorry. We got voice, we got body, language. The last key that I would emphasize for increasing confidence in public speaking would be mastery of your subject matter. If something that you need to speak to others about is a passion, it gives you a real strength in this area. But whatever your field is, or whatever your product, service, or the thing that you want to get across to people, if you gain knowledge of it, it increases confidence exponentially. We live in a time when there's so much media available. To look for the experts in a field, to become a reader, a listener, and watching things, this builds up knowledge in your mind. Vince Lombardi once said, the quality of a person's life is in direct proportion to their commitment to excellence. We commit to excellence in being knowledgeable. Abraham Lincoln said, I will prepare and someday my chance will come. He was right. I believe if you continuously put good stuff into your mental factory, it will bubble to the surface when you need it. Conversation and opportunities to present. At the same time, I believe in mental cross-training. If you have other passions and hobbies outside of work, it's fun to get into them and go deep and find things about them and work on them. So, finding documentaries, finding speakers. When I'm at the gym, I'm usually listening to something in my headphones. Very often it's a talk of some sort. When I first started doing this, my friends started making fun of me because they listen to music usually, and they'd say, what are you listening to lectures about? And I said, well, it's mostly stuff with my class, which was true at the time. About the first year and a half I was doing this, 2 years maybe, I was listening to stuff that went with my history classes. But I got a little bored of it. And one day at the gym, I started YouTube searching words. I started searching words like success or finance or fitness or energy, whatever popped into my head. And I found lists of videos. And I would just stream into my headphones speeches and talks given by people on these, whatever concept popped into my brain. And I found a set of speakers that I really enjoy, and now I listen to almost every day. Renowned speaker Zig Ziglar once said, motivation is like showering. You need it again every day. You've got to keep doing it because it wears off. That makes a lot of sense. You can't see the opportunities that will be in your future. And so there's no way to know which skills you might need. I think that if we master the art of communication, opportunities will present themselves and these skills will be increasingly sought after, as they become increasingly rare. I really think that although things are changing around us rapidly, as they always are, was it Charles Dickens once said, these are the best of times, these are the worst of times. It's probably true. Did I say that already? No. Okay, yes. Wasn't sure which quote I had said. But I think think the American dream is expanding in the 21st century. I think opportunities are changing, but I think our options are expanding as technology increases and we have more opportunity to interact with people. But I do believe also that it's going to be people who are resourceful, optimistic, and have unique skills who are going to be able to make the most of the opportunities ahead. So I encourage you to grow as a communicator, a speaker, and a leader, and look forward to seeing you do so.